why does somebody, get that fat, or they're out of control and they hate themselves, but then they go have another piece of chocolate? Or, why does the person the doctor just told them they have cancer, lung cancer, and said, you've got to stop smoking, and some studies show 70% of the people keep on smoking. So you're not talking about a minor issue here, right? It's part of life. But there is an answer, because there are people that do follow through, and there are people that never did before, and then they've never followed through in their life, and now finally they break through. And that's what I try to focus on, is what those people do. What do these people need to get started? Why aren't they starting? We all know the answer is fear. But the difference with you guys or me or anybody who's followed through is we're more afraid of what life would be like if we don't follow through than the person who's willing to settle for what they got and kind of hope it'll change and maybe purchase something for the moment and then not follow through on it. It's almost like overachievers have a little more fear. They're a little more afraid of missing out. They're afraid of not being there, or they got a strong enough reason to follow through. So I'd say, if you're looking at home, you want to give somebody some value, go, where do I start? I'm sick of this. That's a damn good place. So, because guess what? What makes people excited is progress. You don't have to be at the goal yet to feel alive again. You have to make progress. And the first step to progress is making a decision and buying the product. But then they don't do the second step, which is open the damn thing up. In some cases, it's also a recognition of who I am and what I'm capable of. So for somebody whose life is already great, this is about, what if I could take on another skill that could create more freedom for my life? And just saying, I'm not having to go out and try and do it all perfectly right now. What I'm going to do for the next 8 weeks, I'm going to create a little ritual. I'm going to do one thing a day to condition my mind, right, so that I get strong, so I follow through. I'm going to read something. I'm going to listen to something. I'm going to immerse myself. I'm going to go for an intense jog, or I'm going to go lift weights, but I'm going to do it consciously to get in a state where I'm going to follow through. That's number one, because people follow through when they're in state. Second, I'm going to get clear about why this is a must for me. It's not because my back's against the wall, but because I want to master an area of life that could create some freedom. I'm not going to master it overnight, but I got the system, I got the plan. I'm gonna do one thing a day. I'm gonna work on one subject a week. This week's gonna be about figuring out what the right product or industry is. Next week's gonna be basics of building traffic. And each week I'm gonna make a little progress, and I'm gonna get to a goal, whatever that is. They told me when I was on stage, I had this audience of about 15,000 people at the Continental Center. It was during a stretch break. I was doing what I loved, rocking the house. Everybody's going crazy. And they go, the stock's worth $400 million right now. I was like, wow, that's cool. It's like, okay, no one sounds stupid. It's like, what's next? And I went right back to what I loved. Once you break through, then it just becomes a game. The people that are getting your products have not yet broken through in most cases. The breakthrough happens by conditioning your mind every day, by feeding it a role model or story. It's putting yourself in a peak state where you follow through by getting physically strong. It's creating a little ritual of doing a little bit each day, and then you get momentum. But the most important thing of all is what we start out with. Why?
Absolutely.
Why is it a must for you? It doesn't have to be you're against the wall, but it has to be something you're hungry for, because the only difference in people is hunger. And if you're not hungry, get around people that are hungry and something will hit you. You watch a conversation, you get around people that are doing better, and all of a sudden you start going, my life sucks. I remember I went to a guy in LA. He's one of the most multi-billionaire guy, I'll never forget. And I lived in the Del Mar Castle, and I was really proud. That was like the symbol of me having taken myself from being poor to providing for my family this great place. It's built from castles in Europe overlooking the ocean, not far from you. And I went to this guy's house. He's a billionaire. He took me down to his wine cellar. I don't even drink wine. Went through this whole thing. At the end of the night, I was depressed. I lived in the Del Mar tenement, as far as I was concerned. I really was. I was like, I live in a crappy place, and all my standards changed. All of a sudden, I wasn't willing to settle for living that. All of a sudden, my back was to the wall in a different way, because as a man, I knew I was capable of more. So people can change their standard by getting around where it's better. People can change their standard by getting associated with what's true, like the bills they gotta solve, the problems they gotta do it. Or they can do it because they're excited, because it's something new they wanna take on. Everyone's different, but they gotta find the why, and they gotta come up with some daily rituals to get them going, and just do a step at a time. That's where you get momentum.
Awesome. That is awesome.
So, think about what's the holy grail between somebody taking action or not. It's one word: certainty. When somebody is absolutely certain, the common word is believe, right? But you can believe at a general level, or you can believe with certain. When you're absolutely certain that if I do this, it's gonna get that result, and that result's gonna change my life, you'll do it. When you think it absolutely is not gonna work, you're never gonna do it. The middle no man's land of maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, that's the piece that kills people, right? So if it's a must for you, you gotta make it work, right? In our case, right? It's an example. If it's not a must for you and you're not sure, you don't know what to do. So years ago, I'd look around and say, okay, how do people get themselves to follow through that haven't been following through? What's the difference? And I started interviewing hundreds of people, literally, and eventually thousands, because I had thousands of my events. So I'd ask the group to give me their feedback. And I came up with this model. It's like the holy grail of belief, or the holy grail of momentum. It's like the difference between what makes the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, right? And the difference we all know is mindset, but like, how's that built? So this is what I did. I created stupid little 4 little boxes, and I'll scribble it here for you. You think about the first thing that determines whether you can do something or not, and I put that in this first box at the top here on the left side, and it's potential. Like, what's the potential of a human being? Like, when you guys started, you proved something no one had done in history. You ran the 4-minute mile, right? For golly knows how many centuries, they're trying to run a 4-minute mile. Roger Bannister does it. How did he do it? Do you remember? You did it in this industry, right? You made $1 million in a day. No one had ever done that in history, right? After you did it, a bunch of other guys are doing it because it became possible. Roger Bannister didn't just go physically practice. He made a shift in his head. He practiced in his head because he could never achieve it physically, so he had to change in his head first so that the result became certain enough he believed it, and then his body got him through. After Roger Bannister ran that 4-minute mile, within 2 years, 37 people ran a 4-minute mile.
Wow.
When no one in history had ever done it. Now here's how it works. The potential for anybody getting your product is extraordinary. They could do what you've done as much, more or less. They can do whatever they want to do. The potential's there. The market's proven that. Whether or not they tap into potential has a lot to do with what action they take, which is the question you came to me with, right? Like, you know, God, they all have potential, but they're not taking action. And we all know that the action they take is going to determine the results they get. That's pretty obvious. So most people have a belief about what their real potential is no matter what you tell them. And that affects how much action they take. And of course that affects the result. And then ironically, that result reinforces their belief. And then that belief affects it. So I'll give you an example. Let's say a person has unlimited potential, we all agree. But they take little action, little results. Why? Because they have to start with a problem with their belief. They don't believe it's really going to happen for me. Maybe for Frank Kearns because he's got the cool hair and stuff, or maybe it's for you because you're so driven, but it's not me. Maybe Tony Robbins because he's a freak, got these big teeth. Whatever their thought process is, right? They got this thing, right? But what happens is, if you believe that there's very little potential, how much action are you going to take?
Nothing.
Nothing, little. And when you take little potential with a little action, what kind of results do you get? Lousy little results. And when you get little results, what does that do to your belief? You go, see, I told you this was a waste of time, told you this wouldn't work. And then what happens? You tap even less potential, you take even less action, you get even worse results, and your belief gets even weaker. And this sucker feeds on itself until you are in the downward spiral.
It's poisonous.
It's poisonous and it's self-fulfilling. Now, what if something could happen that could come along and fill you with a sense of absolute certainty? Not like I believe, but mean where you know. In you guys' case, mine as well, we knew because we had to. Because we burned the boats. There was no other option. We had to find a way. We weren't going to live that way. We all did it in different ways and for different reasons, but in essence, that was it. If you get yourself in a state of certainty that this is going to work, I'm going to find the way, and if this doesn't work, I will make the way, then you tap a lot more potential. And when you're certain in your potential, you take massive action. When you take massive action, you really believe in something, you get great results. When you get great results, your brain goes, see, I told you I was a stud. I told you this thing would work out. Now you're even stronger. You tap more potential, take greater action, greater results. That's how you went from $300 in a week to $2,500 in 5 days to $100,000 in a month to $1 million in a day. Same thing with you. And we get momentum. That's why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Now some people go out and they go, well, I'm going to take a bunch of action. All right, I'm going to open this product. I'm going to try it. And they'll say to you, I even did it. But it's like a salesman who goes and knocks on the door, and he knocks on 100 doors and says,
You don't want one of these, do you?
yeah, exactly right. You know? And even if he doesn't say it verbally, his face says it because he doesn't believe it's going to work. So his voice, his body, the execution is so weak. Maybe if he talks to 100 people, somebody's going to buy out of pity. They don't want his kids to starve, right? But he's not going to get the result. So the core difference in people is, how do you produce certainty when the world isn't giving it to you? You go out and you try. In your case, you're 100,000 in debt and nothing's working. How do you keep yourself going? The way you did it, the way I did it, the way you're doing it, we may not have done it consciously, is we didn't change our potential. That was there. And it wasn't even taking more action. Taking more action with a belief it's not going to work, it's not going to change anything. We got results in our head that made us feel certain as if it had already happened. Now here's the difference. The potential was there the first time, and you took action, and you got a result. But it was 50% less than what you did later on, and the only difference is they changed your belief. How did I change your belief? We didn't work harder on your potential. We didn't take more action. I got you to see the result in advance. I got to see it vividly 2 or 3 times, that's all. Of going further, and then your brain went, oh, I know what to do. Boom, it went there. Isn't that what you did by looking at your cars every single day and envisioning it? I mean, isn't that what you did when you created whatever the vision was? It was $300, $2,500, $1 million in a day? That's what's missing for these people. They're not getting that execution is everything, but it doesn't happen if you don't get the psychology set of a state of total certainty. What is that difference in people? This changes people's certainty. People are uncertain they're going to succeed. They want it, but they're afraid. The best way to deal with a fear is get a big enough reason that makes you have to succeed, or condition yourself where you see it and feel it so often that you're certain that you just do it. That's all it really takes. I'll tell you what, I worked with Andre Agassi in 1993, I think it was. He'd been #1, he dropped to 32nd in the world, and he was literally ready to quit with no exaggeration. His father was managing him, and he was so angry with his life, and he went through some, I think, wrist surgery at the time, and he's working on his swing, and he was dating Brooke Shields at that point. They weren't married, not his current marriage, obviously. And so she said, you gotta come see Tony. She goes, I don't need motivation. He goes, he's not motivation, man, he's strategy. He'll show you how to make that shift in your head. So he comes, I work with a guy. In the beginning he's saying, do your magic stuff. Like, oh yeah, great, thank you. And I said, tell me, if you ever hit a tennis ball perfectly, and I'm trying to get him in the zone to remember that time, like you visioned, where he was perfect at it. He goes, of course I have. And I get him vision over and over again. And finally he's in the zone, he's feeling that again, right? He's seeing it and he's feeling certain, and the swing is going perfect. And I said, how's that feel? He goes, it feels perfect. I said, but are you thinking about the swing? You're not thinking about the swing. You're not thinking about how to do it. You're just seeing the result you want so vividly that it's there. So all I did was train him how to go in that state over and over again. He won the next weekend. The second weekend he came in second. Within 6 months, he was #1 in the world again. And he gave me unbelievable credit. But all it was conditioning the mind. You did it with tape, so did I. We were just talking about this earlier, Pam and I used to go when I was 17 years old down in downtown Los Angeles, this place called Night Education, K-N-I-G-H-T, like at the night. And I'd save up all my money, work as a janitor, and I would get these tapes and listen to these things over and over and over again. I went there for years, and I didn't have enough money, and I leveraged everything I had, but I knew how to train my mind. It's the one thing I knew how to do. This man's name was Mario. I saw him in his 80s. He obviously knows how my life turned out and was very proud of the role he played in that process. He used to tell people the story. This guy's the real thing. He didn't just start out this way. This is how Tony did it. He listened to these tapes. He conditioned himself, right? This is the real stuff. He passed away a few years ago. I'm calling his house, and he passed away, and his daughter was there, and she wanted to share with me that how I touched his life and so forth. But the best thing was, I thought, you know what? I want to get those tapes. I want to get that stuff that conditioned. I want to go back to that moment like you did of, that moment was visualizing, now I'm living it. And she said, he left all this in his will to you. So I have all these tapes now that are from the time when I originally went through, and like I'd go to sleep and I had these sleep tapes that conditioned my mind to believe that I could succeed even when I was sleeping, or to build energy in my body. And anybody who wants to succeed has got to know it doesn't just happen. You can buy a product, but you also, with that product, have got to condition yourself. You got to make it a must, and you got to get a ritual. And if you do it, whatever you used to dream about you thought was so huge, you'll just live it. You'll live it like you lived this yesterday, like we're all living the life that we envisioned. Because we had to, and because we played this game with our head. We got the belief to be real by seeing it enough times and feeling it enough times till our brain believed it, and then it made it happen.
Which raised the potential, which made us take more action, which got us better results, which raised our beliefs again.
That's right. And then that's why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So instead of bitching about it, change it. And this is how you change
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Completely.
It's pretty easy to change. Just that one simple exercise was amazing. I'm still like, holy crap, I wonder what else I can do now.
But look what most people do. Most people do the opposite of that, right? They get the product, or they think about doing it, and what do they envision?
It not working.
That's right.
The excuses.
So they envision it not working. As soon as they envision it not working, they feel uncertain. As soon as they feel uncertain, how much potential they tap? Little, if anything. And so they send back your product, and they listen to the damn thing, And guess what? What does that do, by the way? They make that as another lousy result in their life. I didn't even follow through on that, and they believe even less. This process is the holy grail. It's where the whole game changes, and anybody can do it, and they can do it in a few minutes. And if they do it a few minutes each day, then they get a different life. They do it a few minutes one time, their life changes for the day. We're defined by our rituals. Everybody's got rituals, certain things they do every day. And what we three have in common, and anybody that I know of who has a life that they're living that was once a vision, is we saw it again and again and again, even when it didn't work, even when you lost 100 grand, even when I'm working as a janitor, there was something we would not give up on. And if somebody watching wants to change their life, they got to decide what they won't give up on and then put themselves in the state of momentum by a couple little rituals. Okay, but here's the truth. When somebody says to me, in my business, even more, because a lot of people think I'm a motivator. I hate that term. That's never been what I've done. I do believe in energy and I'm passionate. You know, they see 10,000 people in a room rocking, they go, oh, he's motivating them. I believe in peak state. You get a top athlete, you get in a concert, and you get in state, right? The problem is, to defend themselves so they won't be disappointed again, they lower their expectations. So someone will say to me, well, I'm skeptical or I'm pessimistic. And my response to them is, no, man, you're gutless. It takes no guts to be skeptical. You don't have to have any capacity to be a critic. And now with the web, you don't even have to own that you're the one being the critic. You can burn somebody and, anonymously, right? I said, you know what? It takes guts to believe. And if you think something's going to do it for you without you putting your guts on the line, you might as well forget it right now. So this idea that I'm skeptical or they got to prove it to me, it's the biggest lie. What that really is your fear talking. You're so scared of failing, you don't even want to get your hopes up. And if you don't get your hopes up, you might say, well, what if they get their hopes up and somebody gets disappointed? How many disappointments have we experienced in our business careers and in our lives? The difference is some people take disappointment and let it destroy them. Other people take disappointment and let it drive them. And you get to choose. Are you going to turn this thing into why it didn't work and a bunch of stories and excuses, or are you going to take this thing that didn't work and figure out what are you going to do to make it work? And it may not happen the first time, the second time, the third time, but the people that are relentless find the way. And it's the common denominator in all these guys that are kind of our friends or family, money masters, the new money masters is they all did it with will. Nobody here inherited this stuff. Everybody figured it out. And keep figuring it out. And it's going to keep changing. And you say, you know what, 1% of 99% of the money being made is being made by 1% of the people, because only 1% of the people will condition their mind and condition their body and follow through some daily rituals. The rest will tell a story about why it didn't work, how it wasn't their fault. And you got two things in life. You got results or you got a story,
And too many people think that that 1% is somehow entitled to it and they're not, which is, it's just all in the head.
It's all in the
their
head.
belief.
It's all in the head. Which can be changed with some conditioning, basic conditioning.
You just proved it.
Yeah,
to us.
That's fun. That's why I made Get the Edge and Personal Power, because I understood that from the very beginning. Originally it was 30 days, and years later people would say, I've heard all the great results and everything else, man, but I don't have 30 days, and I'd be behind the glass, focus group, watching these people want to shake them, like, you don't have 30 days to change your life, I thought, okay, I'll make it 7 days, just one, because after 7 days you get momentum. I mean, think about it. When do people's lives change? In a moment. It doesn't change in 10 years. Your life may suck for 10 years, but there's one moment when your whole life changes, the moment you decided. You said, no more, and I'm doing it, and you kicked yourself in the ass, and you made yourself go do something, right? When you finally said, enough, no more, I quit, or let's begin, or I love you, there's a moment when somebody's life changes. And that can be gotten in a couple of days. So people watching don't have to wait until they've mastered everything. They got to get started and do what's next, and just put themselves in a state where they start making some progress.
There it is. I think that's the answer that can help solve that problem with a lot of people. They'll just pay attention to it and do it.
The bottom line is, all three of us and some of the people that we consider as family that are part of this process, we've all done well, and we don't need to do this stuff. We're able to do the stuff because underneath it all, people can see in your eyes, Frank, when you talk about $2,500 you made that day and the joy, right? Or you talking about not willing to settle, and just, I don't care what they say. They tell me I'm going to sit here and I should lower my expectations. I'm going to be driving my car in here and they're going to be delivering a video to me. There's something inside of every human being that will make it click, that'll make it so that today is not like yesterday and tomorrow will be different forever. And that process is an emotional hook. And what I hope is people watching this stuff, maybe something in here will piss them off enough or remind them of something or say there is a plan and it isn't just luck. And if I just get my big enough why, and I get a little system for conditioning myself, and if I start to feel overwhelmed, I just do one next step. And I keep learning and keep moving forward, I will get there. And if we accomplish that out of this conversation, then this conversation was kick-ass and fun, not just for us, but it'll be something that we'll be really proud of a long time. Whether that happens or not really has nothing to do with us, but whether or not people take it in as real and do something with it. I hope they will.